Good morning, everybody. How's it going today? Guess it is probably afternoon for some of you. All right, did you guys have anything that you want to cover today specifically? Okay, let me take a look here real quick. All right, I think I'm all set up. I'm ready to share my screen here. Almost. So Macy, have you started doing any design work at all yet?
Very little.
Okay.
I had sent you an email the other day about, I don't know if you got it, about an angel that we were having to do on a vase. It was about like the bitmap tracing and stuff. I didn't know if you had any videos that covered that or if you ever used that much.
Okay, I got that one. I see it. Let me pull that up real quick. Yeah, we'll go over that one today for you. How's that sound?
Yeah, that'll be good. Thanks.
Okay.
And then one other thing I'd forgot about that I was going to ask you, it was we had got this font downloaded into Corel. It was like a government font.
Okay.
And for some reason, like when I hit the space bar, like when I'm typing the text out, it'll do like a block every time you hit the space bar.
Okay. So usually what that means is that the font doesn't have anything for that glyph or for that letter. And so instead it replaces it with a generic glyph, which is in that case just the box. And I can show you that here how it works, because I've got some of my older fonts do the same thing, and I will show you how that works. And go ahead, Derek, if you've got a question, go ahead and ask that too.
Okay. I have been creating files. You know, I thought what I was doing was being more helpful in what I was including. But I am being told that the production method would be impossible. So I do want to show you this.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen actually.
Yeah.
Stop sharing, Mike.
So this is what I did. You can see that I just rounded this one corner, no big deal. And so I straightened out the corner, and you can see that I just made the vase hole, and I made a centering point for the reason of when they're using the boring drill, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't see anything wrong with this or this. But I am being shown that it needs to be just like this. And personally, it just doesn't feel right.
Which part of it are they having problems with? Your actual circle or the way you've got your panel around it?
I suppose it's with the panel around it. But anyways, I'm being told that that can't be done, and I don't see why that can't be done, but I assumed it would be no different than just a circle, and then with that specific point, that would be easier to find the center. Because after all, it's just a single line. I assumed this entire space would be pulled out.
Uh-huh.
So I don't, maybe I'm not seeing the problem.
Yeah, maybe just ask him more specifically what it is that is the issue. So when we would do core holes, we wouldn't do the center because there's not much of a point for the center part when you've got the circle itself. So we would just do the circle and, and then line up the core hole with that. I mean, because it is just a big circle, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. You'd have to ask production what it is that they don't like about it.
Yeah.
Other than, I mean, do they core the excuse me, do they core the hole before they do the sandblasting, or do they core the hole after?
It is to my understanding that the coring is being done first.
Okay. Yeah, I really
I
wouldn't.
would think so. Anyhow, that's not a big deal. Anyways, that's it.
Yeah, I'd just ask them. I mean, or ask them if there is something they would want differently, you know?
Yeah, I just thought maybe there's something that would be better done or through a
Yeah.
shortcut.
Right. It is a little trickier to curve your panels around the core hole just to make sure that, you know, it's in the right location. You can do it, but you'd probably end up having, you know, wanting to measure your stone exactly so that when it was laid out, your core hole wasn't too top, you know, too high or too low or whatever, based on the actual size of the stone. But again, you'd probably just have to ask production what it is that they want, would be my guess. But I don't know. Don't know. So let me know how it goes though. It's always good to learn new things. Okay, Macy, I found that email from you and it's got a CDR attached to it. So I'm just going to click the import attachments from Outlook button because I've got the Outlook item in a different email. So I will bring that in that way. Is it going on a vase?
Yes, it is.
What's the size of the vase?
5x9.
Okay. So if we build a 5x9 vase here, and if I want to, I can, because this picture was taken at a little bit of an angle, I might start out this way, where I add a little bit of perspective to this. And so I'm just going to pull this back a little ways till it matches a bit more with the actual size. So I'm just adjusting those corners until the size of the vase matches a little bit better. That should straighten it up a bit and make sure that it's going to fit on our vase. So I would normally size it first, get it, the way that I want it, and then start tracing over the top of it after that. And now, is this one that you've done yourself already, or is this somebody else's artwork that you're trying to duplicate?
The customer just sent us a picture of that, and they wanted to duplicate that.
Okay. So there are a bunch of different drawing tools in CorelDRAW. So everybody's going to have their preference as to what they want to do and what they want to use. For something like this, I probably prefer to use a pen to draw with, and I like to use the artistic media tool to draw with as well. So that's one way of going about it. Another way of going about it would be using any one of these tools: freehand, Bezier, polyline. I like polyline the best when it comes to doing stuff like this, just because it stays connected. You can also do straight lines or curved segments really easily. So with this all set up, normally I would also apply a transparency to it just to make it a little lighter, so that as I'm working over the top of it, it's not going to get in my way. And then I'll also sometimes lock it so that I don't accidentally select it if I'm trying to draw. So with your lines, you've got options of whether you want to draw a center line and go that route, or you can just draw the inside and basically contour. So I think before I showed drawing a center line and working that way. So this time I think what I'll do is I'll draw these inside lines and then we'll just contour it. So what I would do is basically I'm just making a click every time the direction of the curve is changing. So I'm just clicking and clicking. And I do this just because it's fast for me to go and click all around this design like this. And I'm just basically connecting the dots of where this design is changing. Direction. And this is going to be obviously the biggest piece that's all connected together. Once I get back to the end, if I move my cursor over that existing beginning node, the icon is going to change a little bit to this little pointy icon. So then I'll drop my last node there, and that's going to finish off my curve. It's all straight line segments the way that I drew it. So I will double click with the shape tool and hit 2 on the keyboard or convert to curves. And that'll convert them all to curves. And then from there, I can go and bend them the way that I want them. So the way that it works, if you click on the middle of a line and pull, it's going to pretty much bend in the middle. If you grab, way out here and pull, it's going to pull more toward wherever your cursor's at. And so I want to pull from the middle this way. And if it doesn't quite give me the curve that I want, I can then adjust these handles and get those to match a little bit better for me. So we'll just kind of work our way around like this. And the reason I'm showing it this way is that you can do this, just with the mouse. You don't need to have a pen in order to do this. But it would be faster, I believe, to use a pen. I'm going to actually time this and see how long this takes us. There we go. Okay, so we'll go around like this. And I also usually use this method most if I'm trying to match something pretty specifically. Trying to duplicate it, pretty exactly to the way that it was before. I don't know that I'd necessarily want to duplicate somebody else's angel exactly, unless it was something that was on an existing stone of the families and they wanted to match it themselves. But most of the time, if somebody brings in a reference, I'll mention to them that I can make it look similar to what they want, but that I'll likely make changes just so that we're doing something custom and not just copying somebody else's work. And also a lot of times we try to make it better, right? So I'll just keep going around like this. And I'm just moving my way around the design. I do have snapping on, so I can temporarily disable snap if it's not working out for me. I can hold Q on the keyboard and that will temporarily disable snap, which is nice. And Macy, if you have any questions as I go along, if there's anything that's not making sense or that you're not quite seeing exactly how I do it, feel free to ask or stop me by all means. I'm more than happy to answer any questions as we go along. So I'll normally just do one piece at a time, then go, and do the next piece of frosted area, as opposed to clicking around everywhere. If you make your clicks everywhere and then wait till the very end to start bending stuff, it does get a little bit more complicated with lines maybe being where they are overlapping and stuff like that. And so it definitely makes it easier if you just kind of take it one chunk at a time. Okay, so we've got that one. And then we'll do the same thing here. And double click, hit 2 to convert to curves. Start bending them. If I don't need a node, I'll just double click on it to delete it. Sometimes I place in more nodes at the beginning just because I'm going to end up deleting them later. But it helps shape it a little bit better or a little easier if you have a couple extra nodes in there. But if you don't really need them, you can always just double click to delete those nodes. Or if you click on them, you can hit the delete button too on the keyboard. And this is something that we do quite a lot of, Macy. So whether or not you want to do this yourself, that's totally up to you. We do offer custom artwork services. And so for something like this, the way that we price things is based off the size of the design. Currently we're at $40 a square foot for sandblast designs, and we've got a 1 foot minimum. So for something like this, it would be $50 if you had us do it for you. We usually offer that. I mean, we offer it to anybody, but a lot of times people, if either you don't have the time to do it yourself or just don't have the expertise. That's why we're here to help you out. I just use my mouse wheel to zoom in and out most of the time, at least when I'm working with the mouse. That's the way that I do it. If I'm on a different device, especially a touchscreen device, if I'm like on my Surface and using a pen, then I will normally do my zooming with just touch on the screen. Find that to be a little bit more intuitive when you've got the touch screen. Okay, so we've got a little bit left, not too much. So we'll just put this in here. Another one. Again, there's lots of drawing tools. So there is one called Smooth. If I go and grab that, I can just kind of click on my object and drag around it, and that's going to soften those edges, or kind of curve those edges in a little bit. So I could have gone and adjusted all that manually, but it's pretty easy just to grab that Smooth tool and click and drag over it. And that's going to do the look that I wanted there. So I hit Control A before I grabbed the shape tool, which is not what I wanted to do. That had grabbed everything, so I don't want to do that. I just want to grab all the nodes. So I need to make sure I select my object with the shape tool first before hitting Control A, which is the keyboard shortcut for select all. So I can either double click the shape tool, that will select all the nodes, or I can hit Control A, that'll select all the nodes, or I can drag around them, that will select all the nodes. So there's multiple ways of doing things. And I find that I kind of switch it up between which way I do them, probably more so just, so that I'm not getting bored, or so that my hand doesn't get fatigued. If I'm moving my hand in different directions and, using my left hand for keyboard shortcuts as opposed to my right hand for moving the mouse. Sometimes it's just speed. If I really want to do it quickly, I'll use keyboard shortcuts. But if I'm not too concerned about the speed at which I'm moving, then I'll normally just use my mouse as well. Okay, so we'll just keep going here. So I need to grab the shape tool, or you can hit F10, which is the keyboard shortcut for that. That would be faster if you just hit F10 and then Control A. Keyboard shortcuts are pretty, when it comes to speed, they're really the fastest way of working. And if you want to learn keyboard shortcuts, there is in the Memorial Designer folder a PDF file that's basically the top 100 keyboard shortcuts that I use. There are a lot of different keyboard shortcuts in CorelDRAW and Memorial Designer, and so it's not an all-inclusive list. You can get to one if you really wanted to, but I basically just have in the PDF the top 100 that I use. And it is, the list is actually from 2017, so it's changed slightly because they did have the ability to toggle snapping with Q or Alt Q. Alt Q, I think, turns it off. Yeah, Alt Q turns off snapping, and then Q just temporarily disables snapping. So those ones are new. I don't think those are in the 2017 list. All right, so we got just 2 more pieces, 3, 4 more pieces it looks like, and then we'll be done with this. And I've already got this one built, so I might just duplicate it up here. I just right clicked while I dragged in order to make a copy. That way I've got all the nodes and I can just adjust them. Something like that. Now all we're missing is these 2 pieces here. So we'll just finish it up like this. And so sometimes it's faster if you've got multiple pieces like that to go ahead and do both before you make your adjustments with the shape tool, because these are not going to overlap or interfere with each other. And so that's why it's easier to do it that way. And again, there's right click menus too. So you can see, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I right click to change the curves. And not just because I'm trying to show you different ways, but also, again, it kind of comes down to fatigue and stuff in the arms. If I'm doing this all day long, I kind of want to switch up my methods so that I'm moving different muscles and that sort of stuff. And right clicking is using a different finger than my left click. So sometimes I just switch it up that way. So when we've got everything done, what we can do is we'll grab all the pieces that we've done on the inside, we'll combine them together. By combining them together, they become one object that we can have one set of fills for, one set of properties for. So it's all filled in, okay? And then what you can do is grab the contour tool, and basically you click inside the frosted area, and then drag outward. And as you do that, it's going to contour for you interactively. So I'm just dragging upward and then I'll let go. And it's at 0.084 inches. So we could keep it there, or if we wanted to, we can just type in not 0.1, 0.09, which is the number that I usually like to stick with anyway. And it is really close, so might as well just go with that. And then we will break that contour group apart. And then all we'd need to do is edit and fix, kind of where this is different from the existing one. I'll again grab all the nodes, and I'm going to reduce by about 5, maybe even 10 on my nodes. That's going to get rid of a lot of those nodes that I don't need. And I don't need this chunk in there, so I'll get rid of that. And so we can decide whether we want to, match the existing curvature of the outline, or if we want to just stick to, having it match the piece itself. So either way, this way though, if we do it this way, it's obviously, automatic and takes a little bit less time. Whereas if we were to do it all manually, we'd click all the way around everything just like we were doing before to make our outline. Now you'll notice that when I pull this in, it's changing directions on me. When I move this one over here, it's moving that one. I don't like that behavior for most stuff. The reason that it's doing that is that this node is called a smooth node. And so in order to keep it smooth from that end to this end, as you move this handle, it also moves that one to keep it a smooth curve. But I want more control, and so I will cusp my nodes instead, and that makes it so that if I move this side, it's not going to mess with that side at all. And I'm going to assume that there was probably a piece here as well, but when it got sandblasted, it probably blew out because it was, so small. So we'll go ahead and put that back in there just in case in production it does end up staying, just because it'll look better that way than having that gap. But with how small they are, you never know, they might just blow out again. That's sometimes a risk that you take, but it'll be all right. So I just go around and look for areas of this, you know, that maybe I want to curve a little bit differently. And if we wanted to view the original, we can go to wireframe, just hit V on the keyboard and it will go to wireframe. And that way we can look at our design over the top of the original one and see if we need to make any changes that way. It is a little bit more pixelated in Wireframe View because it's also supposed to be more, you know, simplistic. But it does give us a view of the design here, so that's good. Being able to work over the top of it. So I was asked the other day about nodes because I want to say somewhere around version 16, X6, somewhere in there, the ability to color the nodes in was added. And so having filled nodes like this is new when you're coming from an older version of CorelDRAW. So I want to show you really quick the difference, how it looks and how that works. As soon as I get this done, I'll show you the difference. So you can see there, it's my node is smooth again because I double click. Anytime you double click to create a node, it's going to be smooth. If you just hit C, as soon as you do that, so if you grab your node and hit C, then it will convert it from it's a toggle button. It basically goes from smooth to cusp. And if you hit the button, it'll go back the other way again as well. Oh, you got some lipstick there. Pretty. That is a good balloon. Go upstairs, okay? Yep, go take your balloon upstairs. So if you move along, double clicking, hitting C to cusp, double clicking to delete, you can adjust these handles. And I don't know that we necessarily need to go all the way around it to do this, but we'll try to match it pretty close to this one just to show that we can do it that way. I can grab all the nodes and cusp them all at the same time, which is probably what I'd want to do just because I do want to have control over those nodes. And so I don't like having to manually change them every time. And I don't know why this is thicker than, you know, it's a little bit thicker. Maybe it's casting some shadow or something on her back. But anyway, so that's what we would do in order to get this design done. And I think what I want to do is I'm going to show you. So that took, I don't know why that reset. Thought we were sitting at like 10 minutes and then it reset. So I think that took about 15 minutes, maybe a little longer. But you can compare this one to that one. And also something that you might notice is that, I mean, it looks like, you know, the way that this is done, the clothing is maybe not as dark. So they might be bluing or doing some different shades when they're sandblasting, which you can show. It depends on what you want to do. And I'll show you two different ways of doing that as well, because if we really wanted the face to be lighter than the rest of it, because that face is completely contained basically inside itself, we can break everything apart and then we'll just grab these inside pieces and combine those, and we can turn that face to well, I'd keep it frosted, I think is what I would do in this particular case, but I'd keep it separate from everything else. So then the hand, if I wanted to do that, I would just combine that too, and the feet looks like those are all the same. So we'd grab those pieces and combine them together, separate from everything else. even though the wings are also a little bit white. We have to do those separately. So we'll grab everything minus the stuff we already combined, minus the outline. So I'm just holding shift while I click on those things, which pulls them out of the selection. So we've got all this stuff selected. And we're going to combine it together. The reason we combine it together is because then all these pieces here will show through and everything will be a single piece. So we'll grab it like that. And then, hold on just one second. I'm going to pause really quick. Sorry about that. Okay. So we combine these pieces separate from the rest, right? And the reason that we do that is that if we take this and we're going to apply a gray granite fill to it, these pieces, if we double click here on bitmap pattern, it will give us an option to change the brightness. And so if we make it brighter, then we'll be able to show that a little bit brighter than the rest of the design. The downside to doing it that way is that it's only going to be temporary while we're in this mode. So as soon as we go back to grayscale and restore the fills, it's not going to be that brightness anymore. So that's not retained. So another thing that we could do is we can take those pieces and duplicate it. So if we just hit the plus sign on the numeric keypad or hit Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste, we can make it white. And we'd want to forget fills on this. That way it doesn't think that it's still a frosted granite. And then we could make it transparent and just adjust the transparency for how bright we want it to be. The plus side of doing it this way is that it's retained. So even if we go to grayscale and come back, it's gonna, stay a different color. The downside is that it's another set of objects, and so it's duplicated. But normally I'd probably do it this way just because it will let me maintain that. Once I save the file, it's going to stay that same color. And also because I'm going to end up needing to do the same thing for the wings. So what I would do is I'd just draw a line maybe in here somewhere that, and it only has to overlap. It doesn't need to be pretty, it just really needs to overlap. And then I would use Smart Fill to fill these two sections in. Actually, I guess we need to fill these in as well. And so all of these pieces that are smart filled, we grab those, shift select that because we don't need that piece anymore. We'll combine them together, turn them white. And actually, if we combine it with this, so if we grab these ones and combine it, it'll automatically pull in that same transparency value. And I'll just get rid of the outline. And that way, if we look at that compared to the original, you can see kind of how that's lighter there. So that's one way of being able to show, that blued or honed or frosted or however they want to do it, using different sand or different pressures or even, highlight or whatever in order to get that to work. But that's normally the way I'd go about doing that if I was to use the drawing tools this way. Now there are other options. If I was using touch and a pen, I would actually be using the artistic media tool, but I think I'll save that. Actually, let's see if I can do that real quick. So I'm going to stop sharing because all my stuff, my drawing tablet is actually a different screen. So I'm going to move CorelDRAW to a different monitor. So let's see. Let's see if I can show you this. And see if I can take off my background effect. Background. All right. So you can see I've got a drawing tablet here. You can see that. Maybe I'll pull that back a little ways. And it's got a pen. So there's a pen inside here. So I can just draw with this pen right on the screen. And I don't know if it's going to show up really well, but we will try. I'm going to start my timer again. And we will see how fast it goes with this method. So I'm going to start sharing the screen also. Screen, and we're going to do this one. Okay, so I'm going to just start drawing, and I grabbed my artistic media tool. And this particular tablet is not a touch screen, so I can't just use my fingers to zoom in. Actually, I need to make sure that this is. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so if you haven't ever used a pen before, or if it's the first time you've installed the pen, if you go to Tools, Options, and it's in there somewhere, I can't remember exactly. We'll go to Tools and see what happens. Under CorelDRAW, pen settings, what we would do is you basically draw 3 strokes. So you want to start at light pressure and get to heavy pressure. And you want it to be fairly straight. You don't want it to be jagged or anything. So if it's like light and then it gets really big, or it's like light and really big, you don't want it to look like this, right? You want it to be a nice from light to heavy stroke. So like that one there, that one didn't work very well. So I'll just do a couple strokes. And you can go around like this as well. But the more you do it, the more it's going to kind of just optimize itself. And then once it feels good as far as the pressure range goes, you just hit save, and that'll save that pressure range for you. And I'm going to make my line thicknesses just a little bit thicker. So now, actually, I'm going to reset and start my timer again. Okay, so now I'm going to draw this way. And I find myself that if I'm drawing with a pen, it's actually quite a bit faster for me to come in here with a pen and draw than it is to go around clicking and that sort of stuff. It is a slightly different look to it, though. The harder that I push, the thicker my stroke is going to be, and the lighter the pressure, the thinner the stroke. So I'm just going to go around the whole design, and as I'm drawing my lines, I just want to make sure that they're overlapping each other, because that's important to make it a closed design. Now this one here, as I did that stroke, it kind of auto smoothed a little bit more than I would want it to, so I can undo that. And there is an option up here to change the smoothing. So if I go down a little bit, it won't smooth as much when I'm drawing. And it also depends on how fast you're moving your hands, how much smoothing it does as well. So I usually keep my smoothing pretty high, but that's, yes, it can vary. One of the downsides, and maybe, I don't know, maybe the only downside to drawing directly on screen is that your hand does cover a portion of what you're drawing, right? So that it's a little harder to see exactly what it is that you're drawing. That's my cell phone going off, but I don't want to stop it, so it'll be all right. We'll just kind of go in there like this. Okay, so I've got all my pieces drawn. If I switch over to the shape tool, I can edit the line that, the center line, and the artistic media stroke follows along with that center line. So I can adjust this if needed, if I messed up, didn't quite get it in the position that I want. So I can move this like that, adjust this. I just want to make sure that all of these black lines are overlapping each other. So that, and as they're overlapping each other too, that it's pretty nice. It doesn't need to be exact because we can clean it up later. And sometimes I'll switch from my pen to my mouse, just depends on what I'm more comfortable with. And so you can see here that these strokes kind of are not as clean as if we were doing it manually, but we're going to clean that up anyway. So what we would do is we'll just make sure that all of these pieces are overlapping, and then there's not like little bumps like that. We don't really need that. So if we pull that back just slightly, it's not going to give us that bump. And if you hit V on the keyboard, it'll also show you the strokes that these inside lines here. So we can adjust those too. All right, and then from there, what we would do is we'd grab all the pieces that we've got, and I've got a keyboard shortcut of, it's a comma button on the keyboard. So if I just hit comma, and I'll go to wireframe so you can see what happens. If I hit the comma button, it's going to delete all of those inside lines for me. So it breaks apart the artistic media strokes and then deletes the inside line. So then I can grab those pieces again and just hit W on the keyboard, and that will weld all the overlaps. And so now I don't have any of that overlapping stuff anymore, and it's all double lines. And so I can double click my shape tool. I'll convert everything to curves usually. I'll cusp all my nodes usually. Might do a little bit of curve smoothness just to reduce some of those nodes. But then from there, I can go in and manually, move things around if I need to. Again, I don't know that we don't need to be exact in what she looks like. We just want it to look nice. So I don't think that we have to make it follow the original exactly. We want it to, be our own design anyway. So we can certainly make it look different from the original. Anytime you got a whole cluster of nodes like that, you can just grab them all at once and then hit delete on the keyboard and it'll delete it. Because of the way that we drew it, it didn't quite come to a point like the other tool does. And so if we want to manually make this a little bit pointier, like strands of hair would be, we can come in and make that a bit pointier too. When it's sandblast, it's naturally going to not be able to quite get into those anyway, and so they're not going to be super pointy, but it all depends on how thick your lines are too. So we can go around it and mess with it, or, if we're happy with it, we can just keep it the way that it is. I think I'd probably adjust it a little bit. Get rid of some of these nodes that I know I don't need. But another good thing is the smooth tool that we were using before. If we grab that smooth tool, we can come in here and click on those lines and they'll smooth out as well. If we just click and drag over them, they'll smooth those lines out. Again, this particular tablet is not a touch screen, so if it were a touch screen, I'd just grab and pinch, zoom, and pan like this. But this one is not a touch screen, so we won't do that on this. Anyway, so any questions on any of that stuff, Macy or Derek?
No, I don't think so. Thank you for showing different ways how to do that.
For sure. And everybody's going to have what's comfortable for them, and especially if you've got different options.
I'm following along pretty well. I take just some slightly different steps, but yeah, I for the most part am going the same route.
Yeah, not to say that my way is the only way to go, because it's definitely not. I mean, everybody's gonna work with what's comfortable. But I think overall this method for me is a bit faster than this. Again, it's a different look though. It's not, the lines aren't maybe quite as pointy or crisp. So it's a little different look than if we were to do it this way, but not too bad. And that was less than 10 minutes there to get it done that way. So I will send these to you, Macy, since it's something that your customer is looking for, and that way you don't have to do it yourself. But if you wanted to, you certainly can. But I think that's pretty much our time for today. So we will meet back here in a week, and thank you for being here. Let me make sure. Yep, the following week after that will be Christmas Eve, so we won't do anything on the 24th. And probably not on the 31st either, just for the holidays. So next week will be our last one for the year, and then we'll get back together on the 7th after that. So thank you for being here, and we will talk to you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good one, Cam.
You too.